for what's right. Fight for your life.
Come on, let's hear it for Hogan!
Thank you guys for coming out. It's been a long time. So I met some people today that have been Hulkamaniacs for 35 years. You know what's so cool is to see the Hulkamaniacs that have been around for 35 years with their kids, you know? And I want to thank you guys for coming out today. New Jersey and this whole area was always like the beginning of my career, from Madison Square Garden to the Meadowlands to Cherry Hill to Patterson. I mean, we used to tear it down because the greatest wrestling fans in the world are right here. And I want to thank all you guys for coming out today because this is really cool. You know, I'm not trying to be weird or anything, but not only are the New Jersey women hot, they can also cook. Because sometimes you go to places and the girls are kind of good looking, but they can't cook. So all the girls I met today said they could cook good, so it's really cool to be here. So next time, you guys bring me something to eat, okay? You ready to go, brother? We're doing this thing? I need another mic, right? Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Just got to make a quick announcement, all right? And not to be a buzzkill here, but there's no flash photography or videotaping of any kind during the interview segment. It's IPlay America rules and radio stations and stuff like that. So thank you very much. Not Hulk's rules, our rules, okay? So thank you for that. And let's sit down. We need a mic. We need another mic.
Got one, brother.
There is.
Phone's up.
So we start things off here with the immortal Hulk Hogan. We have a video that's going to chronicle the life, the career, and everything that had to do with the beginning and all the way up through the legend that is Hulk Hogan. We got that for everybody here. Let's check it out on the big screen.
Brother, you don't have enough time for that.
This is your life. That was how the legend started right there at Hulkamania. So a lot of us who've seen that match, Hulk, before, we know that it starts with you in the bowels of Madison Square Garden, kind of getting ready, and then you walk out, and as you walk past Vince McMahon's dad, and it was kind of like a changing of the torch kind of thing. You want to speak to that a little bit as you were getting ready to walk out there into Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, that was a crazy night, brother. The funny thing was, I was in New York before. I came up in 1978 and I worked for Vince Sr. And I was up there a couple of years, and all of a sudden, Stallone called me to do the Rocky movie. And back in the day, brother, you weren't allowed to do movies, or you weren't allowed to do commercials. If you were a wrestler, you were a wrestler. So when I said I was going to go do the Rocky movie, they said, well, if you do the movie, you know, you're going to be fired. So I kind of made the decision to do the movie, and I love Vince Cena to death, you know, but I figured, well, that's it. But when I came back, to refer to this time, I came back and Vince McMahon was taking over from his father, and I was supposed to wrestle the Iron Sheik. But a few weeks before this match, Vince Sr. was thinking about putting Bob Backlund back in there. And so I told these guys, no disrespect, but I just came from Minnesota where I was wrestling, and I can go back there and rebuild all those bridges I just burnt. But that match was kind of like a 50-50 situation. We really didn't know what was going to happen, but Vince McMahon talked to his dad, and Vince McMahon made the final decision to let the match go on. And when I went out, I had no idea how intense it was going to be because the last time I'd been in New York, the Hulkamania thing wasn't started. So to go back and have that match and to beat the Iron Sheik, it's what made Hulkamania take off. But that was an epic night there. That was the most important moment in my career.
Wow. Big pop, too. That's awesome. And up until that time, nobody had broken out of the camel clutch. It was lights out. It was all over by that time, but you were the first to break out of the camel clutch. So to know that your career, Hulkamania, was starting like that, and then you got the go-ahead, it's like, all right, you're breaking out of the camel clutch, this is where it all starts. What was it like just being at Madison Square Garden again, just to follow up on it, that it was there. This was the beginning of a new era, and how was it really going through your mind once you got the 1, 2, 3? How did you feel afterwards?
Well, to win the match and to have the fan reaction, it was huge, but I didn't understand what was going on. I mean, it was great to be the good guy and to wrestle the Iron Sheik because he was the ultimate bad guy. We had that whole political situation with the United States and Iran at the time, so the whole political environment made it perfect to wrestle somebody who was really the Shah of Iran's bodyguard. The Sheik was the real deal back in the day. So, but I didn't know what I had. None of us. I don't think Vince McMahon, I don't think myself, I don't think any of us knew how big this Hulkamania thing was going to take off. But a lot of it has to do with timing. A lot of it has to do with being ready. And a lot of it has to do with being lucky. So I had all three things going for me.
Now, also, just to move it forward a little bit now, originally when you were there, as a heel, there was a time where you had a little bit of a run-in with a man by the name of Andre the Giant, originally, back when you were there the first time in WWF. And then Hulkamania begins, 1984, and then I guess our next video we're going to be watching is probably the moment when Hulkamania was solidified across the world. The largest amount of people ever at a wrestling match whatsoever. I believe 93,000 people. Was a Silverdome, right? Silverdome and Pontiac. Some of you got that, right?
Superdome, Silverdome, Skydome.
Tell me the story how that happened, though.
Not yet.
Okay. So can we roll that glorious footage? He was billed at what, 525, I believe, at the time?
Yeah, but he was a lot more than that. That's just so funny because they always said the 500-pound Andre the Giant, but depending on his health or how he ate, things changed. I mean, he was originally 7'4", then as his back got bad, he got a little shorter. And I've seen him when I first wrestled him in Dothan, Alabama, I think 1978. He was around 500. I've seen him all the way up to 700 when his health was bad, but. He was pretty big that night.
I mean, it's funny how let's talk about the build-up leading to ultimately what that slam was. Andre was just like you. He was a good guy, and everybody was cool. And then Piper's Pit came around, and he decided to go ahead and challenge you for the belt and ripped your shirt off, ripped your chain off, ripped the cross off. And then to lead to that point. So let's get into the match itself, leading up to the match, and then eventually taking it a next step there in front of 93,000 people.
Well, I mean, the storyline stuff was all important. We pretty much laid it out, him ripping my shirt in Tampa. I didn't know he was going to rip the crucifix off my chest.
Was that not planned, the crucifix part? Because it turned out to be beautiful the way it ended up.
None of that stuff was planned for him to tear it off and to cut my chest and all that stuff, but the storyline was fine, but the most important thing about that night was, wrestling was really taking off. You had WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2, but with this large event, like you said, it etched professional wrestling, and especially WrestleMania, in stone that we were not going away, that this was the Super Bowl of wrestling. And, for Andre to put a rocket launcher on my back, I mean, I was popular and I was doing great and the fans were all behind me, but Andre the Giant's the one that made that decision that night, and he didn't have to let me win, you know. It was hard picking him up, you know, and at the end of the day, we never talked about what we were doing in the ring. And usually when I would go to wrestling matches, you know, I hate the word fake because we know that the matches are predetermined. But the word fake doesn't work for me because after 2 knee replacements and 2 hip replacements and 9 back surgeries, I don't understand the word fake. You know, so... But the whole deal with Andre, usually I was going to know, you know, who's going to win or lose. So I went to Vince and said, Vince, what's up? Vince said, oh, don't worry, you'll be okay. So I sat in the dressing room next to Andre all night. Hey, Andre, what are we going to do? Don't worry. Okay, I'm worried. This went on for about 4 or 5 hours because we had to be in the building really early. And finally, you know, I said, Andre, what's up or down? He goes, don't worry. So when we got out in the ring, I didn't have a clue what was going to happen. You know, and the best wrestlers, you know, that really know this art form, they don't talk about the matches. You know, they don't script it, they don't choreograph it. The guys that are really good don't talk about it, you know. And so Andre taught me that. You know, you have guys like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin that don't talk about matches, you know, and they really tear the house down. So when we went out there, I was totally dependent on him to lead me through it. And about halfway through the match, or towards the end of the match, when he went, slam! What? Slam! And I went to slamming, but he's the one that called all that stuff. So to think back on not only how big WrestleMania was and what an impact that was, it etched the WWE, you know, in foundation that we weren't going anywhere. And for Andre to be that kind and to be that nice, to pass the torch, it really helped the business a lot.
And I think to that end, to put it in Ric Flair's words, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and you beating the man at that point, like you said, put a rocket on your back. And I think our next clip is going to show just where it took you to heights you probably didn't even realize you were ever going to get to. So let's roll that beautiful footage of Hollywood. Now, obviously, there's a little video thing there, but the roles, obviously, we talk about. We have No Holds Barred. We have, Rip 'em, baby. We got Suburban Commando. Somebody just, I heard Mr. Nanny in there somewhere. That was in there, too. Your favorite role that you were able to play once it went from the squared circle and then into Hollywood, what was the favorite role that you got to play?
Brother, it was Thunder Lips. Come on.
Absolutely. I couldn't mention it. I wanted you to mention it because I knew it was going to be in there.
No, it was cool. I mean, you know, and once I came back to the WWE, Vince McMahon was all about cross promotion, and he kind of like raised the bar on what he wanted the wrestlers to do. And I ended up doing 16 or 17 little kids movies, you know. And at the end of the day, then we did some Navy SEAL stuff and a bunch of TV stuff. But I kind of like cracked the door open for the wrestlers to start doing the movies. And then The Rock, he just knocked the door down. You know, and he's just unbelievable. But like Dave Bautista and all these guys and Cena, they're all doing movies now. So it's kind of like, once again, you know, getting that door open. But Vince McMahon is the one that produced the first No Holds Barred. He's the one that opened that door for me. So once again, here we go. Back to the dance.
A question. So obviously, Rocky III, you portray Thunder Lips. You meet Sylvester Stallone around that time or prior, I'm not sure, but you also meet a fellow by the name of Mr. T. Now, And so then we fast forward to 1985 in WrestleMania, and you and Mr. G. Now, did you have a relationship with him through those 3 years or so that were between the time of Thunder Lips on Rocky 3 and WrestleMania 1?
Well, we have the same agent. We still have the same agent, a guy named Peter Young. So Peter had introduced us, and I got to know the guy a little bit and saw him on the A-Team when I was in Los Angeles wrestling. I'd go by and say hello every once in a while, doing the political deal, you know. But really didn't get to know him that well until we started working out, getting ready for WrestleMania.
I'll tell you, because I don't know about you guys, but if I think back to the WrestleMania and those vignettes of them training, I think that was some of the best promo stuff ever between you two. It really was, between you, Hulk and Mr. T.
I disagree.
Oh, really?
I think some of the best training promo stuff was with me and Mean Gene.
Yeah.
Gino was great. He was really fun.
So the roles in Hollywood would eventually come full circle, and it would take you back into the ring. And there was a period of time that I think a lot of us as Hulk Hogan fans shed a tear a little bit. Heartbreak. And I bring it off to the next video here, so check this out.
And then there was one, and it was Sting. He didn't look too good. Hulkamania! Hulk Hogan is here! Hulk Hogan's here! Hulk Hogan is in the building! You damn right he is! You damn right, sir! Yeah, but whose side is he on? What are you talking about? Whose side is he on? What are you talking about? Yes, sir! Get it, Hogan! Go get it, baby! Come on and get some of this now! Who's bad now, boys? Hulk Hogan arrives. Hulk, Hulk, Hulk. Is he the third man? What the hell is going on here? Hulk Hogan has betrayed WCW. He is the third man. Look at this picture. Oh my God. What the hell is going on? Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Love it. Can you feel us all? Just some of the devil. Feel it all.
Oh,
Man, so.
wow. I didn't think the day would ever have come, but there it was. The New World Order started up. When you now, whose decision was it? Was it your own decision? Was it through WCW where you decided, all right, it's time for a change. I'm going to go ahead and create this new entity called the New World Order?
Well, the idea was Eric Bischoff's, but when I came, I left the WWE and I was doing a TV series called Thunder in Paradise for a couple years with Jimmy Hart.
Yeah.
And we were filming at Disney, and we were on the soundstage at Disney filming, and on the soundstage next to us was Ted Turner's WCW. So all the wrestling fans would come through, and they all thought I was over at the wrestling. So they were driving Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair and everybody crazy. So finally, after about a year of them trying to talk me into getting back in the ring, I got tired of the 18-hour days, trying to be an actor. And I said, man, I miss wrestling so much. I went ahead and got done with the Thunder in Paradise and went back to work wrestling. But when I came back, I won the belt from Ric Flair. The red and yellow Hulkamania thing was doing great. We watched the TV ratings and the numbers, and they were skyrocketing. And then they flattened off for some reason. And Eric started saying, we need to make a change, and we need to do something crazy. And I was in a meeting with Eric and Ted Turner, and I said, well, we should try something we haven't done here. That's me being a bad guy. And they said, oh, no. Then Eric started thinking about it. He liked the idea. A couple weeks later, he came up with the NWO idea. And the more I thought about it, the more it scared me. And so we were actually going to the TV, that TV in Daytona, that pay-per-view. And if I didn't do it, they were going to try to talk another good guy into doing it. And probably 2 days before that pay-per-view, I said, okay, let's do it. It's either going to make things go totally crazy or it's going to ruin my career. But once we put the NWO together, the whole wrestling business took off again. And we had the Monday Night Wars. And I think that was kind of like the last of the real heels. Because when I was Hollywood for life. I mean, I wouldn't take pictures, I wouldn't sign autographs, and it was hard with the fans and the kids. But I mean, I was like the last of the real no good bad guys. But it was really good for the business.
Put the black hat on, and there you go. I think we're going to open it up to questions that were written down by our audience members. So, If I say your name, you know, you can stand up out there and I'll read your question. So, no, well, I'm going to ask the questions right here. So this is from Tommy Benevento from Staten Island. Tommy, you out there? Tommy, all right, there's Tommy. So Tommy's question is to Hulk, and it says, Hulk, if there is a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, who is on it? So that'd be 4, right? Mount Rushmore?
Andre?
Andre.
Ooh, yeah, the Macho Man Randy Savage. It's gotta be Ric Flair. There it is. I'm not saying Rob Van Dam, me. And I love Rob. Yeah. Right, there's only 4 spots.
There's only 4 spots. I mean, you got to pick a couple here.
I can't pick the Warrior over Mosh now. Come on. I love him to death.
This is from Dion DiNardo from Old Bridge. Dion, there he is right there. Dion wants to know who came up with the Hulk Hogan persona. Was it you or was it Vince McMahon?
Well, I came up with a Hulk Hogan persona, and I was wrestling as Terry the Hulk Boulder. And then when I went to New York the first time, Vince McMahon Sr., he liked to name all those wrestlers with ethnic names, such as Bruno Sammartino for the Italian Americans, Chief Jay Strongbow for the Native American Indian Americans, Ivan Putski for the Polish Americans. He goes, you'll be a great Hogan, an Irishman. And he wanted me to put 2 bottles of red dye on my hair. And I said, hey brother, I'm going bald-headed anyway. If I put that dye on there, the party's over. And Fred Blassie goes, oh my God, you're going to get fired, you're going to get fired. I didn't put the dye on my hair and they didn't fire me, so I became Hulk Hogan.
Our next question is from Benjamin DeVito of Monroe. Benjamin. Hi, Ben, there he is. Okay. His question is, what was your most difficult match in your career?
I think probably the most difficult match in my career was a match I had in Japan with a wrestler named Antonio Inoki. It was an IWGP match, and he had made this belt with real diamonds and rubies on it. Inoki's like one of the people in politics in Japan. He's like number 2 from the Emperor. He's way up the food chain. And at the time, he was like the Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant times 10 in Japan. And he made this belt for himself, and it was IWGP Championship, which they still had in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And he was supposed to win the match. And we got into a little bit of a heated exchange in the ring, and he ended up getting knocked out. And all the Americans had already left on the bus because they wanted to get back and get room service. So I was the only American there, and there were like 50 Japanese guys that wanted to kill me. So that was probably the toughest spot and the hardest match I'd ever been in, because instead of having fun in the ring, it got really ugly for a while.
Hulk says, we got into a heated exchange, and he wound up getting knocked down.
Let's get it from Timothy Gate. Is that our saying the last name right? Timothy from Neptune. There he is. Timothy says, growing up, I've been watching you, Hulk, every Saturday from Piper's Pit all the way through WrestleMania. Other than the winning the championship, what is your most memorable moment in the WWF or currently in the WWE?
Well, I think probably the most memorable moment, other than the championships or coming back now, is when I came back. 09 is when I wrestled The Rock. When was it, Jimmy? 09? That was 02? I can't remember. Yeah, I think that match was one of the most memorable moments for me, other than winning titles and all the other stuff we talked about, because I was coming up from wrestling for Ted Turner. I was kind of like the enemy at the time. And, I knew I had to bring it. Like The Rock says, you better bring it. And I just didn't know how the fans were going to accept me. I was coming up there as Hollywood Hogan, the bad guy. And when we went out to the ring in Canada, I was really shocked to hear how the fans cheered for me and cheered for Hollywood Hogan. It just made me realize how loyal the fans were. After all those years, after all the stuff I've done, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, the fans were the ones that never left me. They were always with me. And I realized then that, the fans are so loyal no matter what happens in my personal life or business life. You guys are always there. That's a strong statement, And, I really had never figured that out. I really didn't understand that until that match when I wrestled Rock, because he was the ultimate good guy, and he was their number one baby face. He was getting ready to do the Scorpion King, his first new movie, and I was coming in. I put him in an ambulance, ran him over with a semi, hit him in the head with a hammer. I did everything I could to make people mad at me, and just to finally get it and finally understand how much love and how loyal the fans are. I'll never forget that, and it's that way today. That's what's so cool about it.
Our next question, we got a couple more questions. Dimitra Doros of Brick, I believe. Dimitra? All right, well, question is, and this is a good one. Do you want to describe a little bit your friendship with Andre the Giant? What was your friendship like with that man?
Well, at the end, it turned out to be really, really good. He kind of changed over the years, When I first met him, he was, much younger and very fast. I mean, if you hit him and try to run from him, he'd catch you, You couldn't get away from him. And when I first met him, I was very young. When I first started wrestling, I met him. And I guess I was about 25 or 26 years old when I first met him. And I was crazy, young and crazy, no injuries. And I was way over 300 pounds. I thought I was as big as he was. I was such a knucklehead. And I would just come at him wide open, And I guess I was just kind of like a dog nipping at his heels. I guess I irritated him. But, he used to beat me up all the time in the ring. I just remember whenever I knew I had to wrestle him, we used to drive everywhere. We never flew. And so if I was in Atlanta and wrestled, and then the next night I had to be in New York, and then the next night Denver, Colorado, we drove everywhere. And so I just remember when I would pull up to the arenas and I knew I had to wrestle Andre, I'd get sick. I'd get so nervous, I'd open the door of the car and I'd get sick. And that's how nervous he made me. And then we had a situation in Japan, the one that we just talked about, where I got in a really bad spot after everybody left. And he asked me why I didn't tell him. Well, why didn't you tell me? We'd have taken care of it the next night and helped you out. And I just never told him, and then he found out about it. And from that time forward, he kind of changed his attitude towards me. It's almost kind of like instead of him thinking I was just a knucklehead, he kind of had respect for me, and we became friends. And he stopped beating me up in the ring, Instead of just beating the heck out of me every night, he kind of took it easy on me, even though it still hurt. It wasn't like it was before. But towards the end of his career, the last 8 years, we became very close friends. And I felt bad for him because I realized there was never a chair, there was never a knife or a fork, or there was never a glass, or nothing fit. Everything was uncomfortable. There was never a bed that he could lay down in and feel comfortable. And I'd walk to the airports with him or behind him, and I'd hear people say stuff, And sometimes it was good stuff. Sometimes it was very mean things, And so I just realized everything that he had to put up with, and I had so much respect for him that I just kind of felt bad for him, because he was such a nice guy. And if he wasn't so kind-hearted, none of us would have been here. He believed that he could beat anybody in the ring. But we became very close friends, and when he passed away, that was a tough one. But he was a great guy.
We have one more audience question, and Matt and I are going to wrap things up with a couple of questions of our own.
This one from Jessica DiLorenzo, Staten Island. Jessica, hello? Hi there. There she is. Jessica wants to know, Hulk, if you could change one moment from your career, what would it be?
Right now.
I don't know about one moment. But, everybody's asking me if there was one thing you could ever change. I would say, no, everything's fine. I wouldn't change a thing. But I started thinking about it. And I would definitely change one thing. When you're in the wrestling business and you get the largest arms in the world, And as I wrestled, my arms were a lot bigger than this back in the day when I was younger.
They're still very huge from where we sit, too. I'm just saying.
But if you have the largest arms in the world and you're working the gimmick, why would you drop the leg for 35 years? And why would you mess your back so you have 9 back surgeries? Wouldn't you use the sleeper? Where you wouldn't hurt yourself, But that would be the one thing I'd change. I'd tell Bruce Beefcake, you can't use the sleeper, brother. And I'd have been using the sleeper instead. But that would be the one thing, but I don't think there's one moment I would have changed.
I want to ask you a question of my own, Hulk. You said originally when you started with the WWF in the late 70s, and obviously now we just saw WrestleMania. I think Jimmy said that we might be seeing you on Raw again real soon, which is awesome. And you've seen all the changes. You've seen the Allentown, Pennsylvania Field House, the weekly tapings up to now. I mean, describe a little bit about how the changes have affected not only the fans, but the wrestlers and the entire promotion from the days, 35 to 40 years ago when we were playing the wrestling in the smaller arenas and the TV tapings especially. Now you have the giant Titantron and everything.
Well, I mean, to talk about all the changes, we'd be here forever. But, I mean, everything's changed. We were talking earlier, and, like when we go in the WWE locker rooms now, everything is so professional. They've got massage rooms, they've got trainers, they've got coaches, they've got doctors. I mean, they've got places where they x-ray. I mean, they've got ice packs. I mean, whirlpools. I mean, like when we wrestled, we didn't have anything, We had a rental car and a six-pack of beer. We didn't have anything. So, I mean, it's so professional. And, like when I first came back to the WWE this time, I was moved to Stanford, because I had that, I had to be brought up to speed by the media grooming or something, where I had to understand how big the company was and how many networks and what the demographics were and what time it played in each country and what the market shares were and what the TVQ was and the awareness level. And it was like, wow, it's just, this thing's such a monster. I came home and I told my wife Jennifer, I said, I just went up to Stanford and they used to have one little studio up there. Now it looks like the Pentagon and NASA together. And I said, it never closes. It's 24 hours a day. There's an 8-hour crew that comes in, and there's 3 8-hour crews. It stays open because they produce so much TV and so much entertainment that instead of having one guy like me and Gene, there's 10 guys there. And they're producing in every foreign language. So there's so many changes across the board, and even with the wrestlers, the whole business is moving much faster because when I first started, we just had wrestling in New York, on Madison Square Garden. And now, there's so many choices in entertainment with cable, satellite, social media, every way you can be entertained with reality shows that the whole wrestling business moves faster. Like Andre the Giant and I had that feud, and it took like 9 or 10 months before I wrestled him. But today, if I was to start a feud with Andre at 8 o'clock when Raw starts, we'd probably be wrestling by 11. So everything moves faster, and the guys are super athletes. They do stuff that's just, we never dreamed we could do before. So everything is just in fast forward. And it's great to be back and be part of it, because every once in a while I kind of like tell these guys a little hint or give them a little shortcut on how not to do things wrong or how to do it right. So it's changed a lot.
The current WWE champion is John Cena. Obviously a mixed reaction there for John Cena. But there are a ton of these up-and-coming wrestlers that are making their way through the system, if you will. If there was somebody who you feel that if you could, and whether it ever does or not, I'm sure it's not, but if there was one more match, right? One more? If there was one more match, who do you feel out of the current roster right now would you want to get in the middle of the ring with?
Well, I have a goal, and Jimmy knows what I'm up to. He's been with me forever. And he kind of knows what my game plan is. My game plan is to have another match.
Wow. How do you like that?
Whether that happens or not depends on a couple things. I've been training really hard.
You look good.
Thank you.
Those Jersey women.
But, I've got a lot of stuff straightened out. I just got to figure out a couple little deals with my knees here, but that's the plan. That's the long-range plan. And when I look at the current roster, of course, the one match I wanted to have that we missed it was me and Stone Cold. That's the one that I really wanted to have. But if I had to get in there one more time, I mean, I know there's mixed emotions about all this stuff, but Cena's the guy I want to wrestle. I see Cena a lot different than you guys see him. I mean, there's the training prayers and vitamins and the hustle, loyalty, respect. Okay, I know gimmick infringement, brother. You know, but he's more than that. I mean, it's a great message, but behind the scenes, I mean, you know, like when I saw Vince this last time with Cena, one of the times he came back and said, here's your horse right here. You know, Cena's the horse because, you know, you guys don't realize that this guy loves this business. I mean, it's in his blood. And whether you like him or you don't like him, I mean, I know what it's like to see kids that are dying, you know. I know what it's like to see these Make-A-Wish kids that are gasping for air and sometimes, you know, they're not kept as hygienically clean as they should be. And there's a lot of things that you see when they bring kids to you that are passing away. And John Cena never says no to anybody. I mean, he's seen more Make-A-Wish kids, more dying kids than anybody. And so, I mean, if you guys want to say Cena sucks, I'm not saying that, you know. I love the guy to death. And then I watch him in the ring, and I see him start to get some injuries. You know, his neck, he had a neck thing, he had an elbow thing, a little bit of a knee thing. But he's getting injured because he's working so hard, and he's out there every night. And if you could sit down for 20 minutes and talk to the guy and realize what a quality person is and what a good man he is, I mean, I see him different than you guys do. I see him in the ring and what he does. And I agree. My opinion is he should go Hollywood Hogan all day long.
Yeah.
You know, he should do the Hollywood Hogan gimmick, but maybe it's not time for him. Maybe it's not time for the promotion. That's just my opinion. But I see Cena, I see a much bigger picture when I look at this guy. And that whole business up there has been on his shoulders for the last few years, and he's done a great job. So if there's anybody I'd like to punk out, I'd love to punk out Cena.
Hogan, we want to thank you for some time today and some insight into your life and your career. Let's give Hulk a huge round of applause, everybody. The immortal Hulk Hogan. And who knows, before you know it, that next match, baby, that next one.